I never expected that losing my job would be the best thing that ever happened to me. When the HR director called me into his office that Friday, I felt my world collapsing. 10 years of dedicated work ended with a handshake and an escort to the door. The real shock came when I told Amanda, my wife of 8 years. Instead of comfort, she laughed. Actually laughed. "Always knew you would fail," she said with cruel amusement. Little did she know about the patent I had been secretly developing. Before I tell you how everything changed that day, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. If my story resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe to join others who have found their own path to redemption. I met Amanda during my junior year of college. I was studying electrical engineering, pulling late nights at the lab while maintaining a scholarship. She was a business major with ambitious plans and a magnetic personality that drew people in. Her confidence captivated me from our first encounter at a campus fundraiser. She spoke eloquently about her future in corporate America, and I listened mesmerized by her vision and drive. We dated for 2 years before getting married right after graduation. Those early years felt promising. I landed a job at Tech Fusion, a growing company specializing in renewable energy solutions. The starting salary was modest, but the potential for growth seemed unlimited. Amanda secured a position at a marketing firm and quickly began climbing the corporate ladder. Our first apartment was small but comfortable. We talked about dreams, planned weekend getaways, and genuinely enjoyed building a life together. I still remember those Sunday mornings when we would linger over coffee discussing everything from politics to the latest scientific breakthroughs. Amanda would listen intently as I explained my ideas about energy conservation and sustainable technology. As the years passed, something began to shift. When I received my first promotion, Amanda celebrated with me, but I noticed her immediately calculating what this meant for our lifestyle upgrade. The focus of our conversations gradually changed from shared dreams to material acquisitions. The apartment became a starter home in an upscale neighborhood. Weekend getaways became networking opportunities with her increasingly affluent colleagues. By our 5th anniversary, I barely recognized our relationship. Amanda had developed expensive tastes and expectations. She began making subtle comparisons between my career trajectory and those of her friends' husbands. "Did you know Greg just made partner at his law firm? They are buying that beautiful house in Oakwood Estates," she would say, watching my reaction carefully. Or "Sarah and Michael are spending a month in Europe. His company really values his contributions." Meanwhile, I had begun working on something that excited me deeply. In our garage, I had set up a small workspace where I developed a new approach to energy storage that could potentially revolutionize how we power homes and vehicles. I would spend evenings and weekends tinkering, testing, and refining my ideas, carefully documenting everything for a potential patent application. Amanda showed zero interest in my project. "Your garage tinkering again," she would ask dismissively when I tried to share breakthroughs. "When will this hobby actually contribute something to our life?" The word hobby stung every time, diminishing years of education and expertise to something trivial. The distance between us grew wider. Amanda began scheduling more social events with colleagues and clients, often not even asking if I could attend. When I did join, she would introduce me briefly before gravitating toward groups where the conversation centered on status and wealth. I would often find myself alone, nursing a drink, watching my wife charm everyone but me. At home, we occupied the same space but lived increasingly separate lives. I retreated further into my work, both at Tech Fusion and in the garage. The patent application process began in secret. I used personal savings to hire a patent attorney who saw genuine potential in my innovation. Amanda never questioned where that money went, as long as her lifestyle remained unaffected. The company downsizing came without warning. Tech Fusion had been acquired by a larger corporation, and redundancies were inevitable. I had hoped my 10 years of dedicated service and consistent performance evaluations would protect me. They did not. That Friday morning, walking into HR felt surreal. The director, a woman I had collaborated with on numerous projects, could barely make eye contact. "The decision came from corporate," she explained, sliding the severance package across the table. "Your contributions have been valued, Isaiah, but we are moving in a different direction." I cleaned out my desk in a daze, former colleagues offering awkward condolences as security waited to escort me out. The drive home was a blur of anxiety. How would I tell Amanda? Our mortgage, her car payments, the country club membership she insisted upon all flashed through my mind. I rehearsed various approaches, hoping to frame this setback as temporary, a stepping stone to something better. I pulled into our driveway at 11:30 in the morning, a time when I should have been in a strategy meeting. Our house, a 4-bedroom colonial that stretched our finances, even with my salary, suddenly looked like an expensive liability rather than a home. Walking through the front door, I called out for Amanda. She emerged from her home office, surprise written across her face. "Why are you home so early?" she asked, immediately suspicious. I took a deep breath and shared the news. The laughter caught me completely off guard. Not a nervous chuckle or a laugh of disbelief, but genuine amusement at my misfortune. Amanda actually threw her head back, her perfectly highlighted hair cascading over her shoulders as she laughed at the news that had just shattered my professional identity. "Always knew you would fail," she said, wiping an imaginary tear from her eye. "Just a matter of time, really. You never had the killer instinct to make it big. Too soft, too content with mediocrity." I stood there, stunned into silence. This was the woman who had vowed to stand by me through good times and bad. The woman I had supported through her career changes and emotional crises. Now, in my moment of vulnerability, she revealed what she truly thought of me. "What about our mortgage, our bills?" I finally managed to ask. Amanda scoffed. "You mean, what about my lifestyle, God, Isaiah? Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is going to be? The Hendersons' party is next weekend. What am I supposed to tell everyone? That my husband could not even keep his middle management job, that we might have to downsize?" She spat the last word like it was poison. That night, I slept in the guest room. Amanda went out with friends, not returning until after midnight. I lay awake replaying her cruel words, recognizing that perhaps they had always been there, hidden beneath a veneer of partnership. The realization was both painful and oddly liberating. The next morning, as Amanda slept off her night out, my phone rang. It was Martin Goldstein, the patent attorney I had been working with. His voice contained an excitement I had not heard before. "Isaiah, we have interest. Serious interest." He paused for dramatic effect. "GreenSphere Technologies reviewed your patent application and prototype data. They are offering $5 million for exclusive rights." The number hit me like a physical force. $5 million. More money than I had ever imagined possessing. "Are you there?" Isaiah Martin asked after my prolonged silence. "Yes, sorry. That is unexpected," I managed to reply. "And it is just the opening offer. I believe we can negotiate higher. Much higher. There are at least 3 other companies that would start a bidding war for this technology." As we discussed next steps, I made a decision. Amanda would not know about this development. Not yet. The woman who laughed at my job loss did not deserve to celebrate my innovation. More practically, if she knew about potential millions, she would immediately adjust her spending upward before anything was finalized. Over the next 2 weeks, I maintained the appearance of a defeated husband searching desperately for new employment. I would leave the house dressed for interviews, then meet with Martin or potential buyers. GreenSphere increased their offer to $12 million after a competitor expressed interest, then $20 million, then $35. Meanwhile, at home, Amanda grew increasingly cruel. She began openly talking about upgrading to a better husband. At first, she framed it as jokes to friends over wine in our kitchen. "Trading in the model that is not performing," she would say, glancing my way to ensure I overheard. Then brochures for divorce attorneys began appearing around the house. Not hidden, but placed where I would certainly see them. On the coffee table, on the kitchen counter, even one on my pillow. The message was clear: fix our financial situation immediately, or face consequences. Her social outings increased, often not returning until early morning hours. She made no effort to hide text messages from men with names like Scott, from Capital Investments, or James Foundation Dinner. When I confronted her about potential infidelity, she laughed that same cruel laugh. "You lost all right to questions when you lost your ability to provide," she said dismissively. "A woman in my position has options, Isaiah. Many options. Men who understand ambition and success." The final blow came on a Sunday morning. Amanda walked into the kitchen where I sat reviewing job listings I had no intention of pursuing. She placed her coffee mug deliberately on the counter and announced, "I want a divorce. I deserve someone worthy of me." Her timing could not have been more ironic. Just the previous day, after an intense negotiation session that lasted hours, my patent had sold for $67 million. The final number had seemed unreal as Martin slid the contract across the table. Greensphere Technologies had won the bidding war, desperate to keep my innovation from their competitors. I had signed the papers following Martin's careful advice about payment structures and tax implications. The money would not hit my accounts for another 30 days, a deliberate timeline Martin had suggested for various legal reasons. I had nodded, never imagining how perfect this timing would prove to be. "If that is what you want," I replied to Amanda's divorce announcement, my voice carefully neutral. She seemed disappointed by my calm acceptance. Perhaps she had expected begging or drama. Instead, she got practical acquiescence. "Fine. I will have papers drawn up," she said, clearly irritated by my lack of resistance. "I expect you will be reasonable about the settlement. The house is obviously mine, and I will need substantial alimony." I simply nodded, which infuriated her even more. The following weeks unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance. Amanda hired Bradley Thompson, one of the most aggressive divorce attorneys in the state. His reputation for securing maximum settlements for his clients, particularly wives of high-earning professionals, preceded him. Their first demand was breathtaking in its audacity: the house, all investments, my retirement accounts, and 5 years of alimony calculated at 120% of my previous salary. "They are basically trying to ensure you live in poverty while she maintains her lifestyle," my own attorney, Sarah Richardson, explained. "It is an absurd opening position." Sarah, recommended by Martin, was puzzled by my apparent lack of concern. "Isaiah, these demands would financially devastate you. Yet you seem remarkably calm." "Just trust me," I said. "Follow my lead and agree to everything for now." My compliance confused everyone. Amanda, expecting a fight, became increasingly smug with each concession. Her attorney, suspecting some trap, repeatedly warned her that my behavior was unusual. "No one gives up everything without resistance." I overheard him telling her during a pre-meeting. "He must have something planned." "He has nothing planned," Amanda assured him confidently. "He has always been passive. This is just more of the same weakness I have dealt with for years." During this time, Martin finalized all details of the patent sale. The money would transfer exactly 3 days after Amanda filed the official divorce petition, a coincidence that felt like cosmic justice. The timing meant that when we filed financial disclosures as legally required in our state, my new assets would need to be declared. Amanda began flaunting her impending freedom to friends and family, painting herself as the long-suffering wife who had finally found the courage to leave her unsuccessful husband. She spoke openly about dating prospects, even shopping for a new wardrobe for what she called her upgrade life. She seemed genuinely happy, drunk on the power she believed she held over my future. The day before our court date, she called me from her attorney's office. "We have drafted an extremely generous settlement for you," she said, her voice dripping with false benevolence. "You get to keep your old car and personal belongings. I will not even ask for your tools from the garage. See how kind I am being." "Very generous," I replied blandly. "Thank you. Just be sure to sign everything tomorrow without creating problems," she warned, her true nature showing through. "Bradley says any resistance could make things much worse for you." "I understand completely," I assured her. The next morning I dressed carefully in my best suit, the one Amanda had always complimented before she decided I was a failure. Sarah met me outside the courthouse, still concerned about my strategy. "Last chance to fight these ridiculous demands," she whispered, as we walked up the steps. "Everything will work out," I assured her. "Just wait." The conference room felt tense as we settled around a large oak table. Amanda sat beside Bradley, both exuding confidence bordering on arrogance. The court-appointed financial mediator, a stern woman with decades of experience, called the proceedings to order. "Before finalizing the settlement terms, we need to review the financial disclosure forms," she stated, retrieving papers from her briefcase. "Both parties are required by law to disclose all assets and liabilities accurately and completely." Amanda's disclosure came first, a detailed accounting of our joint assets carefully calculated to maximize her claims. Then the mediator turned to my disclosure form. I could feel Sarah tense beside me, still unaware of what was coming. "Mr. Harrington's disclosure indicates." The mediator began, then stopped abruptly. She adjusted her glasses, reviewing the numbers again. "This cannot be correct. There must be an error." "No error," I stated calmly. "What is it?" Amanda demanded, looking between the mediator and her attorney. The mediator cleared her throat. "According to this disclosure, Mr. Harrington has received a payment of $67 million for the sale of intellectual property, specifically a patent for advanced energy storage technology. The room fell silent. Amanda's face drained of color. Her attorney grabbed the disclosure form, scanning it with increasing alarm. "This is impossible," Amanda finally sputtered. "He was just laid off. He has nothing." "The transaction date indicates the payment was processed 3 days ago," the mediator continued. After the divorce petition was filed, Bradley Thompson recovered first, his legal mind immediately calculating implications. "This must be considered a marital asset," he insisted, his voice sharp. "My client is entitled to half under state law." Sarah, finally understanding my strategy, smoothly countered. "The intellectual property was developed solely by my client with no contribution from Mrs. Harrington. Furthermore, she has repeatedly characterized his work as a hobby of no value, as we can demonstrate through text messages and emails. Most importantly, the asset materialized after the divorce petition, which Mrs. Harrington initiated specifically to, in her words, upgrade to a better situation." The mediator reviewed additional documentation I had provided, including time-stamped records of Amanda's derogatory comments about my work and evidence of her explicit intent to leave the marriage for financial advantage. Given the timing and circumstances, the mediator finally said, "I am inclined to rule that this asset belongs solely to Mr. Harrington. Mrs. Harrington cannot claim half of an asset she repeatedly disparaged and had no intention of remaining married to benefit from." Amanda lunged across the table, her carefully manicured nails grasping for the financial documents. "You cannot do this. I was with you for 8 years. I deserve that money." Security was called. Amanda was escorted outside to compose herself. When proceedings resumed, 30 minutes later, she had transformed. Gone was the entitled, cruel woman demanding everything. In her place sat a tearful, seemingly remorseful wife. "This is all a misunderstanding," she pleaded, reaching for my hand across the table. I pulled away before she could touch me. "Isaiah, sweetheart, we can work through this rough patch. Every marriage has problems. The divorce was your idea," I reminded her gently. "You wanted to upgrade. Remember, I was upset, not thinking clearly." She insisted, her eyes darting to the financial disclosure form. "We belong together." It was almost sad watching her transparent attempt at reconciliation. Her attorney looked equally desperate, realizing the substantial payment he had anticipated was evaporating. "I wish to proceed with the divorce," I stated firmly. "However, I am amending the settlement offer." Everyone leaned forward as I outlined my terms. I would keep my patent proceeds and future royalties. Amanda could keep the house and its furnishings, plus a one-time payment of $1 million to prevent any further legal challenges. The settlement was more than generous by any standard, but a fraction of what she would have received had she remained a supportive partner. Her face contorted with rage momentarily, before she forced it into a mask of sad acceptance. "If that is truly what you want," she said, her voice quavering with manufactured emotion. Within an hour, the papers were signed. The divorce was finalized. As we left the courthouse, Amanda made one last attempt, grabbing my arm and whispering urgently, "We can still fix this. Tear up these papers. No one needs to know." I gently removed her hand. "Goodbye, Amanda." The look of desperate fury on her face, as I walked away, was the last image I had of my ex-wife. Within weeks, she had sold the house and moved to another state, unable to face friends and family who eventually learned the whole story. The months following the divorce were surprisingly challenging despite my newfound wealth. I moved into a comfortable but modest apartment, needing time to process everything that had happened. Financial security, I discovered, did not immediately heal emotional wounds. The betrayal by someone I had loved for 8 years left deep scars that money could not erase. Initially, I withdrew from social interactions, spending days alone questioning my judgment and worth. If I had been so wrong about Amanda, what else had I misunderstood about my life? The negative thoughts would spiral until I forced myself to remember that her behavior reflected her character, not my value. Gradually, I began reconnecting with friends. Amanda had subtly isolated me from over the years. My college roommate Jackson, who Amanda had deemed not ambitious enough for our social circle, became a regular visitor. He brought perspective and genuine conversation back into my life, reminding me who I had been before Amanda's materialism became my measuring stick for success. "You were always the guy who wanted to change the world, not just make money from it," he reminded me during a hike 6 months after the divorce. "That passion is what made you different. His words resonated deeply. The patent had brought financial freedom, but not purpose. Adrift in possibility, I needed direction that aligned with my original values. The idea came during a mentoring session at the local community college. I had volunteered to speak with engineering students about innovation and entrepreneurship. Their enthusiasm and creativity, unburdened by cynicism, reignited something within me. Many brilliant young minds had ideas that could change the world, but lacked resources and guidance to develop them. Within weeks, I had established the Future Innovators Foundation, providing grants and mentorship to young inventors focused on sustainable technologies. The work filled my days with meaningful connections and forward movement, healing parts of me I had not realized were damaged. A year after the divorce, at a renewable energy conference where my foundation was presenting, I met Sophia. She was an environmental policy expert with intelligent eyes and a genuine laugh that came easily and often. Our conversation flowed naturally from professional interests to philosophy, literature, and travel dreams. Unlike my early interactions with Amanda, which had been charged with superficial attraction and status assessment, my connection with Sophia developed authentically. She asked thoughtful questions and actually listened to the answers. She valued ideas over possessions and integrity over appearances. Our relationship progressed naturally without artificial timelines or external pressures. When I finally shared the full story of my marriage and divorce, Sophia's reaction surprised me. "Thank you for trusting me with that," she said simply. "It explains the careful way you observe people's reactions to your success." She was right. I had become hyper-aware of how people responded to learning about my wealth, instantly categorizing them based on whether their interest shifted from me to my money. Not everyone is calculating their advantage in every interaction, Sophia gently pointed out. Some people just want genuine connection. Those words marked a turning point in my healing. The foundation continued to grow, funding innovations that would benefit communities rather than just generating profit. Sophia and I built a life centered on shared values rather than shared possessions. The wealth that Amanda had so desperately wanted to claim became a tool for positive impact rather than status symbols. 3 years after that fateful day when I lost my job and Amanda revealed her true character, I found myself in a life more aligned with my authentic self than I could have imagined possible. The pain that once seemed unbearable had transformed into the catalyst for genuine fulfillment. The greatest wealth I discovered was not in my bank accounts, but in the integrity of my relationships, the impact of my work, and the freedom to live without pretense. Amanda's betrayal, painful, as it was, ultimately freed me from a life of trying to satisfy insatiable materialism and conditional acceptance. Sometimes life delivers its greatest blessings disguised as our worst moments. The job loss that seemed catastrophic became the doorway to authenticity. The cruel laughter that revealed my wife's true character ultimately protected me from spending more years with someone incapable of genuine partnership. I often think about how differently things might have unfolded had I received the patent offer while still employed, still married to Amanda. Would I have recognized her true nature? Or would increased wealth have simply masked the fundamental disconnect in our values for many more years? That question reminds me to be grateful for the painful clarity that set me free. True success is not measured by the numbers in your bank account, but by the authenticity of your connections and the integrity of your choices. No amount of money can purchase the peace that comes from living in alignment with your values. I would love to know if any of you have experienced a painful situation that ultimately led to positive transformation in your life. Share your story in the comments below. If this journey resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about finding authentic success through unexpected challenges. And if you know someone struggling through a painful betrayal who might find hope in this message, share this video with them. Thank you for listening, and remember that sometimes what feels like the end is actually just the beginning of something far better than you could have imagined.